If anyone other than a licensed mortgage broker has told you that you can't get a mortgage because you don't have a UK passport or because you have a skilled worker visa, make sure you watch this video until the end because I'm going to tell you why they're probably wrong. I get mortgages for people with non UK passports or skilled worker visas pretty much every day. And what I found is that there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation, and outright lies. So I'm going to go through how you get a mortgage with a skilled worker visa or if you don't have a UK passport. Make sure that you watch until the end because every element of what I say is important to why I'm pretty confident that you can get a mortgage even with a skilled worker visa. So many people on skilled worker visas rule themselves out of home ownership because of bad information, misinformation, disinformation, and outright lies. The truth is, yes, there are some extra criteria, but the process is more straightforward than most people think, especially with the right guidance. My name is Anthony Lindsay, and I've been helping people get mortgages for over 30 years. I've done everything in finance from debt collection to wealth management to lending. So I'm going to talk you through the process of getting a mortgage if you have a non UK passport or if you have a skilled worker visa. Don't believe the myths, the lies, the misinformation, the things that friends and family may have told you, or maybe things that you've told yourself. I do find that there's a lot of bad information going around. And sometimes even that friend or family member that has invited you over to their new house because they just got their mortgage with a skilled worker visa, sometimes the information that they're giving you is wrong because that information is not specific to you. They'll talk you through their experience. No two mortgages are exactly the same, just like no two properties are exactly the same, and no two people are exactly the same. So the myths usually surround the following things: how long you have to be in the UK, your employment status, the credit, your income, the deposit. I'll talk you through the timelines and the process. And let me just say upfront, you do need to use a broker. Go in directly to your bank. If you have a non UK passport or you're on a skilled worker visa, is a bad idea because when you go directly to the bank, they can only talk to you about their products. So this is probably source number one of the bad or misinformation because friends and family members have gone directly to their bank. Their bank has told them no, or their bank has told them some criteria that they don't match. And then they tell you that. And then you've told yourself you can't get a mortgage. So I am going to dispel all of those myths today. Mortgage brokers. There's different kinds of mortgage brokers. Tip number one: do not pay a mortgage broker up front. Pay your broker for delivery. Pay them for results. So, this is why I offer a free mortgage capacity report. So, before you pay our firm a penny, we will explore how much of a mortgage you can get, what the terms are, and we'll make sure that you're happy with it. We do not charge a broker fee unless we get you a mortgage. We'll provide full support and guidance. We'll walk you through the entire process. We'll make it as fast or as slow as you need it to be. But the key is you do need to use a mortgage broker. And keep in mind, we are licensed professionals. You shouldn't expect the service for free because we go above and beyond just getting you the mortgage. We also help you and support you throughout the entire process. Issue number one, or the myth number one that people have told themselves or have been told because they have a non UK passport or they're on a skilled worker visa, is around the length of time in the UK. With 3 or more years in the UK, you'll have the most options. So if you have an indefinite leave to remain, or you've been in the UK for more than 3 years and you have proof of address for more than 3 years, it's going to give you the most options. But it doesn't mean that without that, you have no options. There are lenders who will offer what are called day one mortgages. So you've landed in the UK, you picked up the phone and you've called me the next day. There are lenders that do that. Those are few and far between. And usually the income criteria is a lot higher, usually around £75,000 a year. To gain access to a range of options, you should have at least 12 months in the UK. So I would say to manage your expectations, if you've been in the UK 12 months or more, there's a good range of options for you. I help people that have been in the UK 12 months or more every single day. They don't have a UK passport and they are on a skilled worker visa. But do keep in mind your time in the UK will impact the minimum deposit requires. I'm going to talk you through the deposit situation because this tends to be a stumbling block for people. Not because it means that they can't get a mortgage, but it usually means they misunderstand what the criteria is around the deposit. Your employment status. So, reason number two that people talk themselves out of being able to get a mortgage, or people tell them they can't get a mortgage with a non UK passport or a skilled worker visa, is the employment status. Before you approach your mortgage broker, what you want to understand and establish that you can explain to the mortgage broker is what is your employment status? Are you employed full time, part time? Are you on a 0 hours contract? What does your contract say? The question that I ask my clients in the first 10 minutes of the conversation is how much is your annual salary? Not your monthly salary, not your weekly salary. I do find that a lot of people on skilled worker visas are on 0 hours contracts, basically. That means they get paid for the hours they work. But that's fine because they tend to work really hard and work a lot of hours and make quite a bit of money. The way that will establish what your income is if you are in a 0 hours contract or you only get paid for the hours you work is by your P60. So make sure you can bring in a P60 that shows how much you made the previous year. A lot of people work a lot of overtime, especially if they're working in the care industry. So, as I said, their income tends to be quite good. Have you recently started a new job or are you on probation? If you've just started a new job and or you are on probation, it can limit the lenders that will lend to you. Some lenders will not lend while you are on probation. Your employment status will also impact the amount of the deposit. So make sure you watch this full video. Make sure you understand that although there are lots of options, the deposit will be impacted by your kind of employment, how long you've been at your job, your credit, and things like that. Your credit profile. Credit profile. Let's talk about credit profile for people that don't have a UK passport and or are on a skilled worker visa. Notice I said your credit profile and not your credit score. It's your profile and not your score. What do I mean by that? Quite often, a lot of banks will give you this score. They give you a free credit score. That's not what I'm talking about. Your credit profile is, have you missed any payments recently? Do you have any late payments? Do you have any missed payments, CCJs? It is possible to have a relatively high credit score, but you've missed or made a late payment. Lenders will rule people out based on how recently they've missed or had a late payment. So when you talk to me, I'll be talking to you about your credit profile. And the best way to understand your credit profile is to get a full credit report from checkmyfile.com. If you're working with me, it is a required part of the process. I don't get paid anything to tell you about Check My File. But what you will find is most mortgage brokers use checkmyfile.com because it's a comprehensive credit report. It gives all three credit reference agencies, and it's not just a score. It gives us everything that we need to be able to assess your application. Have you had any missed payments in the last 12 months? If you have, it will limit the lenders that you can go to, and it will also, once again, impact the amount of deposit that you can pay down. So if you have a skilled worker visa, or even if you don't, even if you have a UK visa or UK passport, your credit profile will impact things like your deposit and which lenders will lend to you. Deposit. Let's talk about deposit. This is one of those things that I spend a little bit more time on, not only with people that are on a skilled worker visa or don't have a UK passport, but everyone in general. I can almost guarantee that if I ask 10 people how much do they have for their deposit, 8 of the 10 are going to say a percentage and not a pound amount. Bad idea. When your mortgage broker is asking you how much you have for a deposit, let them know the pound amount. And the pound amount needs to be provable. So the way that I ask the question is, how much do you have as a deposit, as a pound amount, not a percentage, that you can prove with a bank statement? Your deposit has to be a pound amount and not a percentage. And I've been talking a lot about deposit, but the reason why we need to understand how much it is in pounds is because not every bit of your savings goes towards the deposit on the property. You will need to spend money on your broker, your solicitor. You may need to pay for valuations. So we need to know how much liquid cash you have that we can help you calculate and manage the cost of moving. Lenders do not like cultural savings account. What do I mean by cultural savings accounts? As a West Indian person, we have something called partners, where everybody will give one person an amount of money, let's just say once a month, and then each month someone gets that money. Do not do that. If you're trying to get a mortgage, do not, you shouldn't do it anyway, but do not do that. Firstly, you get no interest on the money. So why would you essentially get your own money back and jeopardize your ability to get the best mortgage and the best rate? Secondly, you're not getting any interest on it. So you're going to jeopardize the best mortgage opportunities and you're not getting any interest. A much better idea is to open a high interest savings account, put the money in there each month, the same money that you would have been transferring across to different people. Just put it in a high interest savings account. When you get your salary each month, transfer the money over. It's clean. That's what banks want to see. Because if you just have random money being paid into your account, it means that essentially it's not your money. So that money that you think you have for a deposit is essentially a loan. So just don't do it, avoid it. Every culture that I've come in contact with has some type of cultural savings account. Do not do it, avoid it. You don't need to do it. It does not benefit you because you're only getting your money back anyway. The idea of gifts deposit. So some people are fortunate enough to have friends or family members that will give them, not lend them, give them the money for their deposit. Remember, it's a gift and it is not a loan. If it's a loan, you have to pay it back. If it's a gift, that means they'll sign a gift letter and say that that money is being given to you. So when it comes to deposits, A, do not talk in terms of percentage. Always talk about the pound amount that you have. Make sure that the way that that money was built up makes sense, and always make sure that it's legal, obviously. Make sure that anyone that is contributing towards your deposit, that they are aware that it's a gift and not a deposit. And also keep in mind that some lenders will not allow the entire deposit to have come through a gift. They want to see that you have some skin in the game. So if you've convinced yourself that because you're on a skilled worker visa or because you have a non-UK passport, you can't get a mortgage, and you have the deposit, the right amount of deposit, then I'm here to tell you you can get a mortgage and I can help you. Let's let's just dispel and cover off a few uncomfortable truths. Getting a mortgage is about math and criteria. Don't take it personally. Don't think that the mortgage broker is there to trip you up or to catch you out there. As mortgage brokers, we are licensed professionals. We are here to help you, and we are also here to help you and protect you from yourself. So, despite what your barber says, or your friend, or your cousin, or someone who's recently purchased a home that is not you, despite what they say, it takes a lot longer than you think. I stress this with my clients all the time. And despite that, they tend to come back and say, why is this taking so long? So the actual process that I go through to assess how much you can get for a mortgage, I can do that quickly. However, the actual process of purchasing, so going from speaking to me the first time and getting the keys to your brand new home, your first home in the UK, the process takes 4 to 6 months from the mortgage offer. So you have to understand it's 4 to 6 months from when you actually have the mortgage offer. Looking for a home is a full-time job. It's not like on TV where you just walk out there and you look at a property, they fall in love with you, you fall in love with them, you make an offer, they accept the offer, and then the next thing you're moving in. It's not like that. Any home that is of any value and is competitive is going to take a little bit longer to purchase because there's probably other people looking at that home. So the negotiation process can take weeks, it can take days, but I would say and I know you won't take me up on this because most people don't, but if your mortgage broker does offer a negotiation service, let the expert do it. They're going to save you money. On average, I save clients about £2,500 on their purchase price by negotiating the deal for them. You're welcome to do it yourself while you're at work and calling on your lunch break and sneaking off into the break room to talk to an estate agent. But why not let a licensed professional who does it every day negotiate the mortgage for you? Do your research first. So before you approach your mortgage broker, have a feel for how much the houses in the area you'd want to live in actually cost. It's surprising to me how many people come and talk to me about their free mortgage capacity report. And I ask them as one of the first questions, how much does a home where you'd like to live cost? And they have no clue. It's very important that I understand how much the homes where you want to live cost. And I keep stressing where you want to live. You may need to be a little bit more flexible with where you live. You may need to be a little bit more flexible with the size of the home. This may not be your forever home. And especially if you are on a skilled worker visa, you need to be realistic about what you can afford and what you will actually qualify for. People tell you what they want you to know. So when your friends and family are telling you about their process or their journey in getting the mortgage, they're only going to tell you the bits that they want you to know. They may not talk to you about things that happen that they're embarrassed about. So only listen to a licensed mortgage broker who knows your circumstances. Don't listen to some guy on YouTube, TikTok. Don't listen to me. Listen to the person that you've talked to and they've actually done a review of your finances and your ability to get a mortgage. And your affordability is your income minus your outgoings. I have a great formula for how you figure out how much of a mortgage you may be able to get and how much of a property price you may be able to get. But keep in mind, if you make £3,000 a month, let's just say, and your bills amount to £2,500 a month, the lender's going to look at the £500 that you have left over. So your affordability is your income minus your outgoings. This is why it's so important that you pay down any small loans that you might have. Let's just again recap the timelines for a mortgage. So the process is as fast as the slowest person. So that means if you are trying to cut corners and save £100 or £200 on a broker or on a solicitor, and they're really slow, they're not professional, you can't get in contact with them, they avoid your phone calls, that can delay your mortgage. It can even mean that maybe you lose the property because the seller thinks that you're not serious because they're asking you, where's your agreement in principle? When is the valuation going to be done? But because your mortgage broker is inefficient or unreliable, you delay. And then that person's like, I'd rather sell to someone who's going to move quickly. The negotiation process can take weeks. Remember that. It can take a while, especially if you're doing it yourself, because the estate agent might contact you and you're at work, you're unable to pick up. Underwriting takes about 2 weeks. So the underwriting process, I'll just talk you through the process of getting a mortgage very quickly. You'll speak to your mortgage broker. The mortgage broker will do an affordability assessment. If you speak to me, I will then generate an illustration for you. So go through the entire mortgage that you will be applying for, interest rates, terms, payments, everything. I'll go through everything with you. Then we will apply for an agreement in principle. When we apply for the agreement in principle, that's when you pay your application fee. So we've already done all the work, but then you pay that application fee. Once that has been done, let's just say you found the property and the offer that you've made to purchase that property has been accepted. Once that offer is accepted, this is when things really start. This is when we would order the valuation on the property that the lender can confirm that they're comfortable with the value of that property. Once the valuation comes in, that's when the underwriter will start doing all of the checks. So they'll look at your pay slips, your income, your outgoing, your credit report, everything. That's the underwriting process. That process can take about 2 weeks. That's if you provide everything quickly. If you take long or your mortgage broker takes long, it can take longer. But let's just say 2 weeks. Once you get the full mortgage offer, so the full mortgage offer is when the lender is saying, yes, we will lend you this amount of money on that specific property. So the mortgage offer is a full mortgage offer. It's an agreement that the bank will lend the money. Once you have that, this is when the solicitors start to do their bit. From that point on, that's when it takes 4 to 6 months. So it may have taken 3 months just for you to get to that point. But once the mortgage offer is in place and the solicitors are dealing with each other, it's about 4 to 6 months in that process. So be warned, understand that it can take longer, it can be quicker, but on average, it's 4 to 6 months from the moment of full mortgage offer. What's the perfect profile? So this perfect profile applies to people that have non-UK passports or skilled worker visas. So this is the perfect profile. It doesn't mean that if you don't match this profile, you can't get a mortgage. But if you do match this profile, it means that you're probably more likely to get the best deal based on having a skilled worker visa and have the most options. So the first thing is employed full-time, PAYE, salaried, meaning you have a contract from an employer. The contract states that you make £47,000 a year. So that means even if you're off work sick, you make that £47,000 a year. I don't mean long-term sick, but if you miss a couple of days. So what it really means is you're not paid based on how many hours you work for the month. You're based on a fixed amount. Each month you get pretty much the same, but you do potentially work overtime and you can make more. So that's key number one. You're not on probation. You have a full-time fixed term contract that says how much you make. And I'm only talking about the perfect profile. So as I said, even if you don't have the perfect profile, you can still get a mortgage. Good credit profile. So by good credit profile, I mean you haven't had any missed payments, late payments, CCJs, defaults. Your credit score is high and you have not missed any payments. You have a low income to debt ratio. So let's just say you may have a good credit profile in the sense that you've never missed any payments. But if you are making £50,000 a year and you have £30,000 worth of debt, even if you've never missed a payment, that's a really high debt to income ratio. That does not make you the perfect client. You have a deposit of 11% of the house price, and it's in a high interest savings account. So I've told you to avoid talking about percentages, but in this sense, if you're buying a house for 400,000, you'd want to make sure you have about £41,000 for deposit. This is to be the perfect client. Let me let you in on a hint, and I'm so glad you've watched up until this point. But even if you have a skilled worker visa or a non-UK passport, there are lenders that I work with and I help people with every day that will accept as little as a 5% deposit. 5%. But there are other things that need to be in place. But I would say for the perfect profile, you want to make sure that you have about 11%. You've been in the UK for 3 years or more. Maybe you even have an indefinite leave to remain, and you have at least 18 months left on your visa. Remember, I'm only talking about the perfect profile. If you don't match this criteria, I can still get you a mortgage. And this is one of the other key things. The house price that you're purchasing is about 4 times your income. So if you have a combined income, you and your partner, of about £50,000, 4 times 5 is 200,000. If you are buying for that 200,000, that would put you in the category of the perfect profile. That means there's not a lot of stress on your income. That means you're going to be more than comfortable with affordability if you meet the other things that I've just listed. So if you have a skilled worker visa or non-UK passport and you meet the profile that I've just explained, you're more likely than not going to be able to qualify for not only the best products with the best lenders, but also you'll match a lot of the best rates. So make sure you reach out to me. Even if you don't meet this criteria, I can still help you. If you don't meet the criteria of the perfect profile, which most people don't, there are specialist lenders. Specialist lenders exist to help people who maybe have had a missed payment or a late payment in the last 12 months. Or maybe they have a more complex employment structure. So maybe they're full time employed and self employed. Maybe they have two jobs and one of the jobs is under an umbrella company. Specialist lenders can help you even if you have a skilled worker visa or a non UK passport. They can even help you have a lower deposit. So I would say the minimum you're going to need based on the house price is about a 5% deposit. So that's going to be the minimum. But let's just say you aren't making enough and you need a higher income multiplier than the 4 times income that I always talk about. There are specialist lenders that can help you. So don't rule yourself out. Even if you do have a UK passport, specialist lenders are there to help you if you have more complex needs or you need what they call manual underwriting, meaning it's a human being looking at that application and saying, does this make sense? My top tips. So, do you really want to hear my top tips for getting a mortgage if you have a UK passport, if you don't have a UK passport, if you have a skilled worker visa, or if you have indefinite leave to remain? First and foremost, I don't want to burst your bubble, but be realistic. Don't expect to be on a £30,000 income and get a £500,000 home. As I always say, the best way to kind of estimate how much of a mortgage you should be going after is to take your salary, multiply it by 4. I always use 50,000 because it's just an easier number to use. So if you're on a £50,000 individual or combined salary, multiply it by 4, that will give you 200,000, and then add the deposit. So the multiple of 4 is how much of a mortgage you will get. So that's how much the bank will lend you. And then the deposit on top of that number is the price of the property. So 4 times 50 is 200,000 pound mortgage. If you then had a 30,000 pound deposit, that's a 230,000 pound home. Be realistic, work with that number. The other thing is know your budget. You may not feel comfortable paying a mortgage payment that on paper you can afford. I've seen it all the times when we've done the calculations for a client and they could maybe afford a £2,000 a month mortgage, but they say, you know what, I don't feel comfortable paying more than 1,600. Keep in mind that's going to reduce the amount of mortgage you can get, but be realistic and know your budget, know what you're comfortable with. Know your affordability. As I said, it's 4 times your salary plus deposit. Be prepared. So start to gather your documents in advance. So get your 3 months pay slips, 3 months bank statements, P60. If you are on a skilled worker visa, generate your share code, have proof of deposit, have proof of address, have proof of ID. Be prepared. And the key thing I would say, trust your broker. Trust that they're giving you the best advice, they're finding you the best rate, and they're being open and honest with you. If you don't trust your broker enough to be open and honest with them, then you shouldn't be working with them. This whole process is about trust. The mortgage broker will be able to find you a mortgage based on your circumstances, and they'll make sure that it meets your needs, your budget, what you're comfortable with. But we cannot do anything for you if we don't have the true figures. But I would say, I've been doing this for 30 years. I've been looking at bank statements for 30 years. I can figure things out. But I shouldn't have to figure things out. It's an uncomfortable conversation when you're telling me one thing and clearly your bank statements or your salary or your pay slips reflect something different. Always be open and honest and make sure that you trust your mortgage broker or don't work with them. The best way to find a mortgage broker is by being referred to by someone who has used them recently, someone that you know and you trust. But keep in mind, as mortgage brokers, we will never disclose any of your personal information or theirs. So you are protected by GDPR. Do you want to understand how mortgages work? Do you want to understand how the UK financial system works? Do you just want to improve your financial literacy? Well, I have a book for you. I've written a book called A Mortgage is a Really Big Loan. It will help you through the entire mortgage process, but it will also help you understand basic financial literacy. I talk about wills, I talk about trusts, I talk about most of the basic things that you'll need to understand to have a successful financial foundation. The book is available on Amazon, and it's not just about mortgages. It's a great gift if you have a young person going off to university, or if you know someone that's recently relocated to the UK and you don't want to give them random advice or talk to them about your situation that might misguide them. Instead, you can purchase this book for them. It's called A Mortgage is a Really Big Loan, and it's available on Amazon. Protection and insurance. I talk a lot about protection and insurance. You might wonder, what is protection and insurance? We do refer to insurance as protection because that's exactly what it is. It's not a required part of a mortgage. Let me say that again. You are not required to protect yourself with life insurance, income protection, or critical illness in order to qualify for a mortgage. This is a bit that no matter how much I explain it, somewhere in the back of people's minds, people are under the impression, ooh, I'll tell Anthony that I want the protection or insurance, and then after I get the mortgage, I'll cancel it. Don't do that. It's not a required part of the process. It's illegal for a mortgage broker or anyone to say you have to do this in order to get your mortgage. So you don't need to do it. But my question is, if you are a human being, you're living and breathing now, you know you're going to die at some point, and that sounds horrible. But the reality of the situation is we are all going to die. So why would you enter into the biggest loan of your entire life in most cases and not have something in place that if the worst happens while you have it, that your partner is not protected? So what can happen? And I'd say, especially in certain cultures, you have the conversation about income and protection. You have the conversation about budget. They can more than afford to take out the protection, but people are convinced, or they tell themselves, or they just want to believe the myth that insurance doesn't pay out. That's not true. They want to believe the myth that they can't afford it. That's not true. When you speak to your mortgage broker, or in my case, I have my insurance department have the conversation with you, they're going to look at your budget. So we already know your finances. They're going to look at what shortfalls you have. And the purpose of the protection is to cover the gaps. It's only about the gaps. Most people have no clue what their death in service is, what their sick benefit is. They have no clue about if they have critical illness cover with their job or any of these things. So you'll have a professional talk you through what you currently have and cover any gaps. But keep this in mind. If you do have employee benefits, so you get certain benefits with your job, those benefits are attached to your job. You might be taking out a 30-year mortgage. Do you really plan on being at your job for 30 years? So the protection is for the home and you as an individual. So no matter where you go, you are protected. Have the conversation. Make sure you're open and honest, and don't rule it out because you think you're saving money. I worked in debt collections for over a decade. And 9 times out of 10, the reason why someone's home was being repossessed is because a partner died, or one of the 2 people on the mortgage was off sick and they couldn't keep up their mortgage payments. Banks don't want to take your home. Don't let anyone fool you. Don't fall for the clickbait. Don't fall for the trap that there's this idea that that banks want people to take out mortgages and then snatch up their homes. It's not true. The FCA requires mortgage brokers to have the conversation with you. Make sure that there's a quote on file saying, we spoke to Mr. and Mrs. Smith. They had these shortfalls. This is what we've offered them, and they've declined it. You don't have to take the mortgage in protection. However, you do have to have the conversation and make sure that it's a meaningful conversation. Quite often people will say, I can't afford the protection. And to me, the rationale is, if while you're working, you and your husband or you and your wife are working, you're saying you can't afford to pay for protection on your mortgage, that underscores the fact that you need protection on your mortgage. Because what that's saying is, if one of those incomes was no longer coming in, you definitely wouldn't be able to afford your mortgage. If while you're working, you can't afford the protection, which is usually about 10% of your mortgage payment, 10 to 15%, depending on how old you are and where you live. That means if one of you is off work sick,
If one of you passes, you definitely won't be able to afford your mortgage. And remember this, and this is something quite interesting to think about. Today is the cheapest that your protection will ever be. And what I mean by that is if you're my age, I'm in my mid 50s, right? My protection is going to be far more expensive than when I was 35. If you've had any issues, it's going to make it more expensive. So the younger you are and the healthier you are, the cheaper it's going to be. And you want to have that conversation, a meaningful and honest discussion with your mortgage broker, because having the discussion about protection is a part of the mortgage process. And also make sure that you have the conversation with the estate department about a will. So we've covered off a few things. What do you do now? You should book a free consultation. So yes, it's free. I will do a full mortgage capacity report with you. What does that mean? I will go through your income, your outgoings, your credit profile, everything, and tell you how much you can get for a mortgage. It's very, very rare that I can't get someone a mortgage. Sometimes people's expectation is well beyond what they can afford, but it's very rare that I can't get you a mortgage. So as I said, friends, family members, anyone other than a licensed professional has told you you can't get a mortgage, make sure you speak to a licensed professional, a mortgage broker who understands your needs. I'll do a free mortgage capacity report. If we do not get you a mortgage offer, then you pay no fees. No fees if we're unable to get you a mortgage offer. We'll provide full support and guidance. That includes if you need a solicitor or if you need any referrals for builders or surveyors, anything like that, we can give you those referrals, but you're welcome to use your own. I also accept evening and Saturday appointments. When you go into my diary, if there's a time that is not available that would be more convenient for you, just make sure that you reach out to me. So that's a full free consultation. However, I do charge broker fees. So I charge a $495 broker fee once we get you the mortgage. So you're paying for results. Once we get you that full mortgage offer, that's the only time that you pay the broker fee. There are application fees, but we can discuss that when we have our appointment. I really appreciate you watching. My name is Anthony Lindsay, and I make these videos to inform you and to educate you, to help you improve your financial literacy. I don't give financial advice, legal advice, pension advice, or tax advice. These videos are designed that you can have information and speak to a professional, qualified mortgage broker who understands your circumstances. Make sure that you like, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you share this video with anyone that might find it useful. This information is correct at the time of recording, and I appreciate you watching.